Hello all, how are you? Greetings from Hack the Box. I'm too bright, I have to do something with my lighting. Hello all, how are you? Greetings. I am very excited for this AMA today. So, as you saw, we do not have the traditional background for AMAs, and we do not have the traditional things that we do because it's not a traditional AMA. In this AMA, we gathered here because we will be discussing CPTS. CPTS is our newest certification. We launched it while we were at DEF CON, actually. That's why we had the t-shirt for the CDF that we were doing over there. And we released a new certificate. We are a penetration testing platform, not a penetration testing platform, an upskilling platform for everyone that is security curious. But we started as Pentester Labs, if you remember, all of you. And we started like that, and we have skyrocketed up that point. However, it is the first time that Hack the Box introduces a penetration tester certificate. We started back in April almost, if I remember correctly, with CBBH, Certified Bug Bounty Hunter. And now, after months of work, and it took us a lot of time, but it is because the team that you will meet today for the first time, wanted to create something very special, something that is up to the current cybersecurity standards, something that is going to change the way training is done and is not something traditional, as Hack the Box never does anything traditional. So we gathered here today in order to discuss about CPTS, Certified Penetration Testing Specialist. So if you are a security curious person or someone that is a penetration tester or someone that is now starting a penetration testing and is looking for the certificate that will access and grant all these amazing possibilities in cybersecurity jobs, we launched this certification. And the purpose today, we have the two specialists of the team to discuss about it. I'm going to introduce you. Actually, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Dimitris, ex-colleague of mine and current colleague of mine. Hello, Dimitris. How are you?
Hi, Soteria. Thank you for having me. And thank you, everyone, for attending the CPTS AMA. I am Dimitris Bougioukas, and I serve as the training director of Hack the Box.
Perfect. And also we have the one and only, the notorious one that created offshore, the one that has hacked not only networks, but also I think his body, and he's all about hacking and gym and athletics, Mr. Ben, the creator of offshore. Hello, Ben.
Hey, Soti. Thanks. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Ben Rolland, Mr. Ben. I'm the head of training development for Hack the Box. So I work alongside Dimitris on the Academy team, leading a team of training developers for all the content that we put out.
Perfect. And we gathered here today. I'm going to spill some of the questions. Let me see if we have something now on the channel. Okay, too many comments as of now. Where would you rank the certification in the industry? All these questions are going to be answered while the stream. Perfect. Mr. Ben hacked my heart. Okay. Dimitris for Ben for the win. Okay, I think everyone is very excited to see you. Let's start with the questions. So before we go there, how guys, I will do some questions that you didn't know about. So how guys did you land your jobs in Hack the Box? How did you start your journey here?
I can go first. Me? Or sorry.
Sure.
I joined Hack the Box from the very beginning. So I had a friend, I think in May of 2017, that told me, hey, you got to check out this new platform, Hack the Box. It just opened up to the world. And I signed up for it, and I went to the invite challenge, and then I kind of left it. And then I think a week or two later, he asked me if I had played it. So I checked it out again. And that night, I ended up staying up until I think 5 in the morning. And then I realized I had been hacking boxes all night, and started working with him, working with the community. I met Chap through the old Slack, I think it was, or a NetSec focused Slack. From there, I just kind of became a moderator, started making machines. I worked for a different company at the time, so I was basically a volunteer, then went from contractor to employee, I was on the content development team for a while, making labs and weekly release machines and CTFs and all that kind of stuff. And when we formed the training department, I went over and started leading that up.
Perfect.
Super.
And what about you, Dimitris? How did you start working for Hack the Box?
Actually, Soti, I'm not even sure if you know the story as well. So here in Greece, we have an annual meeting hosted by the Greek Ministry of Defense, where once in a year, I was in the same room with one of Hack the Box's co-founders, Aris Zikopoulos. So we always have the good laugh and a nice discussion once a year where we met at this annual cybersecurity meeting. One time he invited me to see the traditional Hack the Box offices. He gave me a very nice walkthrough of the whole company, and I think that by then it was almost love at first sight. I loved the mentality of the company. I loved the employees. I loved the training approach. So actually the clock started ticking. I always thought about making the transition from my previous employer, and eventually I made the call, and for a good reason, I believe.
Perfect. And the funny thing is that I was very excited when Dimitris also started to work for Hack the Box. Of course, when I met Mr. Ben, I was like starstruck because he was the creator of Voucher. I played it when it was put in a CTF, so it was amazing to meet him. But also for Dimitris, we were, when he resigned from his previous company, I joined. So we were not even colleagues for a day. And then he went to another company, and then I started working for Hack the Box, and then we met again, and I'm very happy and honored because I was hearing all the time how amazing hacker he is. I knew Mr. Ben how amazing hacker he is because I was seeing all the tweets and all the boxes. So it is amazing to have this AMA today for everyone. Why? It's not just to tell you how amazing the Hack the Box colleagues are. The reason that we have this AMA, and it's not just to say about CPTS, but also because there are two experienced hackers, two hackers that really know what they're doing, and they are experienced in their level, and they're going to explain to us not only about CPTS, penetration testing, and how we can use the certification or any certification to prove not our worth, but why we need or why we must get a job, but also their experiences because they have seen a lot. So I will stop rambling because I'm sure you don't want to hear about these things, and we will jump right into the questions. So the first question is and before we jump into the questions to all of you, we have split the questions a little bit about first for the certification, then about how you can renew it, and first the certification in the exam, then about renew, comparison with other certificates that everyone wants to hear about, and other stuff that has to do more with the experience of the two professionals that we have here today. And at the end, some questions that you have about enterprises and Hack the Box, companies and not companies and Hack the Box, enterprise and Hack the Box, and academy and the certification. So stay tuned. The stream, of course, is going to stay on YouTube with timestamps afterwards. So if you miss something, make sure to catch up later. So let's start with, what is the main motivation to design this course? Who wants to go first?
Ben, all yours. I will chime in later.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can go turn back a little bit and talk about our motivation for creating Academy first, and that kind of feeds into this. We created Academy because we wanted to take, what we did with Hack the Box and how there's all the, different black box challenges and boxes out there, and, have a learning component to it. And when we did it, our major goal with it was to make it accessible and, to everyone in the world. So no matter what country you live in, what type of internet you have, if you're, experienced enough to stand up a VM, if you need to just work in the browser, that's why we made it 100% browser based and have, all the labs there spawning for you. So you don't have to build anything. You don't have to go to another service and use their machines or anything. try to make everything, flow very well in the background. So it doesn't, you can click a button and you'll get most Docker images basically spawn almost instantly. Our AD labs come up really quickly. So that was the first phase for us, was to make accessible training. And as we started designing the courses, we said, let's make these job role courses more so mirror what we would expect if we were interviewing junior or mid-level pen testers, what we would want someone to see. I worked in a previous company before this, and I interviewed a lot of people that had a lot of certifications on paper, a lot of skills, but then when you put them through an actual hiring lab challenge, an AD lab or something, they would fall short. A lot of people wouldn't be able to complete it. So we saw a gap there in practical hands-on skills, and too much theory and just kind of CTF stuff. So we built the Pentester, professional penetration tester course, so we could kind of address that issue. And we wanted to keep it very practical with, along the way, there's a lot of different tips and tricks from all of our different authors. So every author in there has 10 plus years of experience pen testing or in various fields of IT security. We have simulated pen test in there. There's all kinds of things in there that we want to help build the next generation of security consultants, pen testers who can actually get in there and find things other people miss and actually speak to the risk and the issues that they're finding in networks.
And what about you, Dimitris? How do you want to share? What was your motivation?
Mm-hmm. Guys, I want to take a step back to be honest and focus on the skill set, let's say, that an aspiring penetration tester or someone that is willing to join this profession should have. And I should say that not Hack the Box, not any other company that it is on the same domain as us, the training domain, none of us dictates, what this skill set should be. This skill set is dictated, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, by the threat landscape. So if we see attackers conducting more and more web attacks, if we see attackers conducting more and more Active Directory attacks, then we should take these techniques, tactics, and procedures and make it into an entry-level curriculum, even if you consider it too steep to have Active Directory within an intermediate pen testing certificate, even if you consider that actually extensive web app is considered too steep for juniors. Unfortunately, we need to have them in a certification for aspiring penetration testers, and it is our duty and our responsibility to make the learning curve as flat as possible. So that was the main motivation. We had entry-level certifications or intermediate pen testing certifications, but were lacking Active Directory or extensive web exploitation parts. So we identified this lack of content in intermediate pen testing certifications, and we made it happen because we wanted to have the most practical and applicable curriculum and certification. And luckily, we have it, I believe, and you can do the comparison, at the most affordable price. So that was the motivation all along, to have something really up to date, really applicable, but will also provide you with real job proficiency without, of course, draining your bank account. And I think that we totally achieved that.
I love the comment. Sorry for laughing. I laugh because I love it, because it's actually true. It's funny because it's true. And if I could sum up of what you both said, you can correct me if I'm wrong, like you wanted something that is up to date, that you were seeking in the skills of the people that you interview, that is up to date to the current standards, and is what everyone could do in the most simplified way. Like train, but you don't have to have everything very closed and everything to being a mystery and don't know how to research. Am I correct? I think if I could sum it up.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
If I could add one thing there, we also strive to teach methodology more than just using individual tools and scripts. We wanted people to be able to actually get into a network, and if say a client says, okay, I want you to test from a Windows 10 machine in our network, you can download some tools, but you're kind of constrained. What can you do with built-in stuff? So we wanted to teach that. We wanted to go beyond just showing individual CVEs and maybe modifying an exploit script or just running a script as it is, and work on built-in functionality, misconfigurations, really getting in there, understanding Active Directory and all the ways you can abuse it. If you're presented with an application that you don't know, you've never seen before, and you guess the creds, or you find the default creds admin, and you get in there, do you have the methodology from the Attacking Common Applications module to actually go in there and assess it and look for a way to perhaps, run a script or something of that nature?
Yeah, and that is amazing, because a lot of people are asking about methodology, but I'm going to address these questions at the end. But methodology and reporting are things that are included in the certifications. So if we go to the next question, how good would the CPTS holder be in doing web or network penetration testing? Dimitris, maybe now you start.
Sure. The penetration tester job role path is quite heavy, and I think that I have some good insights within the training and certification industry, and I can assure you that it has the beefiest and the heaviest web exploitation part of any intermediate certification. Again, for aspiring penetration testers, it is really heavy when it comes to web applications and web exploitation, and I can justify why we did that. As you all know, we are living in the ADR era. It is not as simple as throwing a phishing email with, even with custom payloads, you will have difficulty in penetrating and going past defenses. For this reason, we focused on the heavy web exploitation part, because this is also what attackers do. They are focusing the perimeter, and you can get initial foothold through web exploitation nowadays. It could be more effective than going against a pricey EDR. Of course, there are evasion techniques. They are out of scope for the time being and for this curriculum. But again, attackers are following a heavy web exploitation strategy. And for this reason, we have the beefiest web exploitation part of all intermediate pentesting certification out there. And the same applies for network penetration testers. For network penetration testing, we are very heavy when it comes to techniques like pivoting, like assessing the most common network services, attacking infrastructure that you will see inside real corporate networks. So all in all, to not spend your time too much, we are all about real job proficiency when it comes to penetration testing and all the skills necessary for a penetration tester nowadays.
Perfect. And if you go to the next question, and maybe you, Ben, can reply, how did your industrial experience with your clients influence CPTS?
Okay. Yeah, so I've done, I don't know, tons of pen tests over the years, internal, external, everything under the sun. I saw, when I first started out, there was, sometimes you would get a foothold a different way external. You have some vulnerable service listening. There was more of that nature, but lately companies have locked that down a lot more, and their external perimeter, like Dimitris said, is majority web apps. So I found that if you're not good at web apps, you might, bang at things for a little while and then just give up and give them, a blank report or some lame findings. But if you have a good, a deep understanding of all the different web application vulnerabilities that we present in this path, then you're more apt to get in. And I saw that a lot when I was pen testing, kind of at the end of, so I haven't done it in a while, but at the end of that was when I was seeing a lot more web. And the team that I was on, I started shifting our focus and training them up on more web. And as we did that over the months, we started to have better and better reports, much longer attack chains, much more people actually getting a foothold in the environment. And then from there, once you get that foothold as web, you need to figure out, how am I going to have persistence? How am I going to pivot into AD? How am I going to work, from this crappy web shell and turn this into something I can actually use to enumerate AD? So that, for the perimeter stuff, is, a lot of the stuff that I saw. And then in general, just across all the modules and the exam itself, there's a lot of stuff from my own experience, everyone's experience, that wrote the courses and contributed to them. just things that we've seen from, all different industries, government, local, government, all kinds of things that we've seen, misconfigurations, just, wild things, and try to put a lot of tips and tricks in there and stories that will help it. When you see something, instead of just being the dry technical, if there's a story along with it of how I use this to, do an attack chain, or how I use this other thing. And then the same thing with what I mentioned about manual testing and, misconfigurations, built-in functionality. Just a lot of the different things that we've seen over the years, we tried to put in there and make it go beyond some of the other things that we've seen out there.
Perfect. And what about you, Dimitris?
I want to stress something, that we see in the industry in general. It is great that inside the penetration tester job role path and CPTS, you will find multiple perspectives from multiple, successful professionals. So the methodology and the way we teach something or the way we attack something is something that we have seen that it has proven effective in the field. So it is not just a path and a certification that comes out from 1, 2, or even 3 different instructors. We have a very big team, and you will find multiple perspectives so that you can see different attack methodologies, what has proven effective for us, and all in all, and eventually develop your own, but at least you will have the opportunity to see multiple perspectives, and something that, again, was successful while we were pen testing.
And since you both mentioned that it's not only you, that you are experienced and seasoned professionals, do you want to do a shout out and name the people in your team? I know the names. I just know a few of them. I know Zayad, for example. All of you that are loyal viewers of Hack the Box streams, he does a lot of live hacking workshops with us about web, about anything about to start your career. And I think also Zayad was involved, so kudos to him. I know Julio, who is also an ambassador, and he was a security consultant in Microsoft, and he's also amazing. Valentin, do you want to continue and name names of the team that supported for this role and their experience?
Sure, I can take some names. Correct me, Ben, if I miss anyone. So we have George Bilbray. We also have Bob. We also had Mozart, that he helped us QA everything. This is not something that we take lightly, so Mozart did a great job.
He has an eagle eye for QA like I've never seen before.
Right, I totally agree. Julio, Zayad, Valentin, you mentioned. Did I miss anyone? Of course, we have some great contractors doing some serious noise with those modules that then we had to QA ourselves and also put our own knowledge in there. So it is totally a team effort.
We have Jared who joined us kind of recently, but he's also been helping us for a while now, and he's contributed a lot to QA and some other things, and just ideas in general, troubleshooting some issues we had early on. And then we have our training lab engineer Kunal, who he's helped us automate and build a lot of our labs and make them as tight as they are. And he actually helped me design the path for the CPTS exam, and it would not have been as good as it is without him. And he's the kind of guy that I can give him a task, and I'll expect maybe I'll see it in a week or two, and by the time I wake up the next day, it's already done.
Yes, so I asked all of them to mention all these names because it is very important to understand that it's not just these two guys, but it's also a whole team of professionals that really tried and have a lot of years experience in their back and trying to make the certification so good. And it took us time to release it because when we did it, we wanted to be the right time and be perfect inside. So let's go to the next question. How much time did it take to you to become a CPTS? Ben?
Me? I'm all right. No, I'm kidding. This is kind of a tough one. So this would really just depend on your personal experience, your own journey. Everyone's different. We have We've had some people that have tested this for us that are extremely experienced, and it took them probably shorter than it's going to take some people. In general, it really depends on how much you apply yourself when you're going through the job role path. So if you're already pretty experienced and you go through the job role path, you're going to pick up tips and tricks. You're going to learn, nuances of the way we do things. You definitely, no matter your experience level, are going to learn some new things. And, I would say, I don't know, maybe a couple months to go through all the material and the exam. If you're brand new, I would recommend you first start with some of our fundamental content and make sure that you can, have a grasp on web applications, what is Active Directory, web requests, all those different things before you try to approach this path, because otherwise it'll just be overwhelming. Same thing with operating system fundamentals, all those different things that are in the fundamentals path, which I forget the name of right now. And, from there, it would probably take a few months of going through all the material. And I would stress to make sure that you actually, before you try to sit for the exam, make sure that you can go through every single exercise and skills assessment on your own and understand the why, and you can actually beat them yourself. It's okay to study with others, but I would just caution against, focusing 100% on studying with others, getting answers, because if you don't, have a thorough understanding of everything in here, you could have a difficult time on the exam. But we built the exam around the path. So when you do go through the exam, we're not going to throw out things in there that you have to spend, a day Googling because we didn't teach it or anything. Yeah. Everything in the exam is taught in the job role path. So there are little, twists, of course, because we want to make sure that you understand how to actually the methodology behind it. So, we might give you an AD attack and you might just see it in a little bit of a different way, but it's still the general methodology and approach that we taught for going after that attack.
Perfect. So it depends on the skills, if I could sum it up. But what about you, Dimitris? Do you want to add something to it?
Actually, I think Ben is spot on. We have used our analytics team to calculate estimated time of completion based on our actual users. It seems that the whole job role path can be completed, or we have seen it being completed by students in around 40 to 50 days. So I would say 2 months. So it is a curriculum for sure that it will take 2 months. But again, just like Ben mentioned, if we're talking about someone who has never touched anything when it comes to cyber, I would add an additional month to go over everything again and properly prepare for the exam. I want just to stress again what Ben mentioned, that we don't require any external material to complete either the path or the exam. We try to have everything inside our modules. Focus on this and you will be perfectly prepared for the exam.
Exactly, and just my opinion for how I saw also the path myself. I used also to be pentester. I would so if you are a university student or you're a professional that you're already working, so you have like a 9 to 5, 10 to 6, or whatever hours of job, I would suggest to limit it to take the labs, and so if you know the basics and you know some things, to not take it more than 2.5 months, because then you will lose a lot of the things. I would suggest to focus on that max 3 months with full-time job, but it would be nice, like for those 2 months, it's like training for a marathon or training for a concert if you're into art, or training for a CTF if only hacking is your life. To focus on this for a short period of time, you will also enjoy it more. It's very important to enjoy and take your time during the certification, because, okay, not all things will be in the exam that you will have 7 days to complete with the report. However, see it as an opportunity. How when you go on a travel, how when you go on a journey in an exotic island and you want to enjoy a little bit of it, do the same with your certification. And any certification you do, take your time to understand everything thoroughly, and be sure that you have conquer what your aim was, because it is the only time you're doing it. It is just for 3 months. You have a whole life ahead of you. Make sure to make the most of it. The next question is Is there labs available to practice with penetration tester path?
Yeah, so during the actual, all the modules, you actually attack, I think it's 271 targets. So there's a substantial amount of different targets you attack from every different area. We counted actually, you work through 9 simulated penetration tests during the modules. And the entire path itself is actually, if you take a pen test and kind of cut it up into sections, or kind of like an onion and peel away the layers, as you go through the modules from start to finish, you're working through an entire pen test. So from penetration testing process, where we go through the basics of contractual stuff, letter of agreement, letter of engagement, all of that, and then the methodology. Then we work through all the enumeration modules, all the web ones, all the AD ones, pivoting, and then we culminate it with documentation and reporting, which actually has a mini pen test in it too. And then there's an optional portion to create your own report, to practice reporting there. And there's a lab in there that's basically you SSH into it, or you connect into a machine, and you can see that it's a pen tester that was kind of mid pen test. So you have all their notes there, what they've done so far. So you can see some of the findings that they've already found with the evidence. You see some things that they are looking to explore, and then you still have to finish the pen test and compromise the rest of the lab. So there's a mix of white box, black box kind of pen test there to practice. And then it culminates with the Attacking Enterprise Networks module, which is basically, I would say it's the best practice lab for CPTS exam, because it follows a similar structure. It's a guided lab, and you can really do it 2 ways. You can walk through it, go through the module. We break it down step by step by step. Every single thing you need to actually work through that lab and conquer it is in there. Or if you're feeling more confident and you want to use that to practice for the CPTS, you could attack it black box and see how far you can get. If you can beat it on your own, then I would say you're 100% ready for the exam. If you're struggling with beating it on your own and you refer back to the material here and there, that's okay too. But I would say that if you are going through the material of that lab and you 100% have to rely on the walkthrough, and you still feel pretty lost, then I would probably say you need more practice and go back through the modules and the content. There's, of course, outside of Academy, there's plenty in Academy, but outside of Academy, at the end of every module, we recommend different boxes and challenges and things on the Hack the Box platform that would be good for extra practice. And then, of course, there's Dante ProLab that would help you. Offshore, parts of it would, but parts of offshore are a little bit further along than CPTS knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I think with what you said, you also covered a little bit the second question, the next question, actually. For someone who is not currently in the industry, do you believe CPTS scores alone is sufficient to pass the exam? The mic to you now, Dimitris.
Yeah. Again, I believe that we made everything. We have everything covered in the job role path. No external resources are required in order to pass the exam and be perfectly prepared. Just make sure that you have gone through each and every lab exercise and that you have comprehended the taught topics. If you want some additional practice, I think that, again, Dante, our Dante ProLab and parts of offshore will be an excellent practice ground for the CPTS exam. But again, I think that we have everything covered. As Ben mentioned, 9 simulated pen tests, 270 targets. I think that they are plenty. They offer plenty of valuable hands-on experience for CPTS.
Perfect. And for some, it's not that the CPTS, it's at the level of Dante. At least for me, since I have done almost both, because when it was done at the reverse engineering, it was no. But the previous part, I done it with not much practice or doing practice. But for CBBH, it needs not CBBH. CPTS, it needs much more. So it is something that can prep you for sure, Dante. But but CPTS is more difficult. Not difficult. It's more difficult, more advanced.
I'd say if you don't have much experience, it would just be another helpful lab for you to attack, to get used to assessing many, many targets, pivoting. Same thing with offshore.
Yep.
But yeah, anybody who's new, I mean, if you put in enough work and you really comprehend everything, you can do it. Obviously, it's going to be more challenging for you than if for somebody who's been pen testing for 5 years, but it's definitely doable.
And to our next question, once completing the course, how soon someone could expect to be work ready, to be ready to go and hunt for jobs? Dimitris?
Sure. I truly believe that CPTS and the penetration tester job role path are all about job proficiency. They were designed for job proficiency. It is a certification that will make you directly deployable into a network. That means that a senior can take you, of course, after teaching you the specific processes of the company, but on the actual technical stuff, he can have trust in you to complete a professional penetration test on the technical side and on the reporting side. So I believe that if you obtain CPTS and you do the slightest additional practice on the platform, you will be a deployable professional on the actual field.
I agree. And what about you, Ben? What do you think?
Yeah, I would add on there. Back when I was hiring people, if I knew at the time if CPTS was out and I knew the content of it and what was in it, or taking it myself, I would be much more apt to be interested in a candidate that had that, just because of all the hands-on practical stuff that's in there. And I do believe that somebody who goes through this would have the competency to be put on a pen test and be able to work. Depends on their level of ability. You might have to work with another or shadow a little bit, but I do believe that they could also, if the company they're going towards had a hiring lab that they had to work through, and if it was, sometimes companies will have an environment where it might be, okay, exactly, a junior needs to be able to compromise the first domain, a senior needs to be able to pivot and compromise the next one, a principal consultant needs to be able to compromise everything. I do think that this would help somebody be able to approach one of those environments confidently. And because sometimes people during those interviews, once they hear that there's a lab environment, they would just ghost or go away. So I think this would give somebody the skills and the abilities and the confidence to be able to approach hiring labs, discussions. Even you could just use the mock pen test that you've done in this as talking points in your interview. I think that could be a great thing. You could talk about the reporting that you've learned and all of that, and how to communicate findings. And I think it could be very, very helpful for you even in interviewing process.
Totally agree. And just to add on this, when you're completing the course, when you are work ready, there are different variables in this. You do not need to have the skills, you need also to have the gut. So after you finish this, you need also to understand that you're ready to go in the professional world, that this needs another type of mentality. But it's not only that. For the assessment that you were asked, if this is the type of the question, this is why we ask this. When someone knows that there is a certification, at least what we have seen now from our clients that go with Academy for Business, and they take this certification for their employees. When you take this certification, if you know that it's created by people that now work in the industry, and the labs are created now, and the modules are created now, that means everything is very curated. No one is going to put you in a pen test, or hopefully no one's going to put you in a pen test that it has 10 years of technology or 10 years of methodology needed. So if someone knows that you just did this course or within this time, it's something that means you are very on the edge on learning new things and finding what is the hottest out there to train on. Will this course be able to make students ready for real-life pen tests, which are unlike CTFs? Ben, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of answered that in the previous one, but I mean, we teach everything from the beginning to the end of a pen test. So how do you, if you just have a set of IP addresses, how do you start enumerating them? attacking enterprise networks goes through that step by step. So we give you a lab. There's many different listening services, and we do it almost as a ride-along pen test. So if you were sitting next to somebody and they're explaining to you their methodology of going through each and every port, probing the ports for different things, okay, when do they move on from that port to the next one? When do they start looking at web applications? How do they discount certain things in the web application as not vulnerable? How do you move on from there? Once you've gone through the initial enumeration, what steps can you take to find vhosts or subdomains or other things? So we work through there. We work through getting a foothold. Okay, I got a foothold. Great. How do I turn this web shell into something better? Getting a reverse shell connection, getting something persistent and stable. And then from there, pivoting and actually getting things back to your host so you can start digging into Active Directory. We work through going through an entire Active Directory environment, enumerating it, looking at stuff, because every Active Directory environment you're going to be in, there's going to be things that you might have to chase down for a while and maybe Kerber roasting, crack some hashes, but the passwords won't be for an account that you can do anything with. So you'll have to move on. So we work through a lot of the different things. I can't say everything because there's so much you'll see in a pen test, but so many of the things that you'll encounter, and then, what to do in those situations, when to move on, how to hop across domain trusts, how to pivot, multiple networks deep. So I think that it'll prepare you for a lot of the stuff I see in pen tests, modern day ones even. So.
Yep. Of course, each time in any pen test you do, you're going to face different methodologies, different technologies, not methodologies. For example, at the one, it might be GraphQL. It was somewhere, I didn't know that existed. So in order to prepare myself for this kind of pen test, I went to Hack the Box. I searched for boxes that it had something similar and I practiced on it. So the methodology will be in CPTS and in any certification, but all technologies is something that you gain through the years of experience.
Yeah. Every pen test I ever do, I always have to Google certain things that I see, but at least I have the methodology to know. When I see an application I don't know, these are the things I can start to look at to assess it. Another kind of bonus, I guess it's for Academy in general, but we have the global search on there and all the cheat sheets. And for me, if I was still pen testing, I would love to have something like that to be able to say, okay, I see X, and go search in the global search, and then not only get a definition of what it is, but also a step-by-step attack example of doing that. So you can even spin it up and practice in the lab there before you do the attack in the client network.
Agreed. And our next question is, that is intertwined with our other certificate, our first certificate that we did with HackerOne. Should I first take CBBH or CPTS? I want to pass them both eventually, but is there a preferred order? Dimitris, do you want to go first?
Sure. Of course, it depends on your career aspirations. So if you want to be and to focus on the web penetration tests, CBBH is the way to go, regardless of its acronym. CBBH is all about conducting professional web penetration tests. It also covers some aspect of API pen testing and web service pen testing. And because I would say that because CPTS has a strong web exploitation, aspect, it would be nice, I believe, to go with CBBH and then to CPTS if you want to do both. Actually, both. Truth be told, it will be. I think that it would kind of flatten the learning curve between the two. But again, it depends on your career aspirations. CPTS is all about, becoming a skilled penetration tester. CBBH is a bit more focused towards web. But again, if you ask me, I would go with CBBH and then CPTS, again, if you want to go for both.
There I have also a question from what you said. Does some of the CBBH modules are included in CPTS, some web hacking modules? Okay, so if you have completed them in CBBH, you're okay for CPTS also?
Of course, yeah, that's correct.
Okay, And I understand this question now more and more because we got this question also at RamHack, because many people were interested and actually got the subscription to the certificates. I understand this, correct me if I'm wrong, because most of the penetration tests that penetration testers are asked to do start with web. Wherever you may end up to, you start from even a crappy website, crappy web pen test, we all must have done one, or from a web pen test or something web related. So that is why maybe CPTS has all this web and CBBH will help you.
Yes, that's the idea. You know, WASAs, as we call them, web application security assessments, are really, really popular in pen testing firms and consultancy firms as well. They may be more appropriate for an individual since, you know, it would be a lot more difficult to cause actual damage than, you know, throwing an entry-level individual into doing an actual network penetration test. So again, yeah, this supports again my view of going with CBBH first and then going all the way for CPTS.
Nice, thank you. Excellent feedback. And the next question is, do you think that this certification is appropriate for beginners in infosec field? I think we really covered this question, that it is amazing for beginners, but you need to study a little bit first to know the basics. Of course, we teach you the basics. Emma, that is here with us today, because she wanted to do certification, told me, oh, at first it's painfully beginner, but we designed it that way. Guys, don't take it personal, or don't take it on me. Yeah, we made it like that. They made it like that because we want to help beginners. But of course, we need to know the basics. If you just know what Wi-Fi is, okay, we have to learn more things. If progress a little more, there is starting point. There are some intro tracks in Hack the Box. All of them are free. That you can train a little, upgrade your skills. Even on Academy, Tier 0 modules that we find that are fundamental for you to have are free. And they're free for a reason, in order for you to play them and become better. And if you like it, okay, then you can go extra. But the fundamentals are free for you to try. So go to Academy or go to Hack the Box, try starting point on the main platform, or try the fundamental modules on the Academy to train a little bit, and then jump more into CPTS or CBBH or both. How long should it take to complete the training? I think we covered it also a little bit. We said that we suggest 2 to 3 months, depending on your experience. But how much for the exam? Do you want to say, guys?
We give 10 days for the exam. We do that for a number of reasons. One of them is because we want to be cognizant of people's work life, their family lives, their downtime. We don't want to stuff it into 48 hours or something that they're going to just, feel horrible. We want them to have a good experience. And the 10 days also is to simulate more so of how long you have for a pen test. I mean, a lot of pen tests might be 5 days, a business week, but we extended it out there. It also gives you a weekend in the mix, no matter when you start it. So you have that extra time, especially if you have a full-time job and a family. So people can take it as they please. You can, it's up to you. The lab is once you spawn the lab, you can spawn it, revert it as many times as you want. There's no contacting any admins or anything. It's completely your environment. So if you want to work on it for 24 hours straight the first day and then 12 hours and just kind of crush it in the first few days, then you can. If you can only spend a few hours a day, and it's going to take, then it'll probably take you closer to the most of the time. If obviously probably putting a little more hours in on the weekend, but we wanted to make it as accessible as possible while being cognizant of that people have lives outside of this.
Some people.
how our labs work and how you have full control of it. You can leave the lab up as long as you want. You do have to extend it periodically, but we built it to be super stable. So there's nothing that crashes that you have to keep reverting it. Sometimes people want to get a fresh copy just because they think they might have broke something or messed up something that they might be missing in the path. But if you want to leave the lab environment up and keep extending it the entire time, then you're free to. If you want to revert it every 20 minutes, I mean, maybe the infrastructure team will yell at us, but you have that ability. So we wanted to give people that control and flexibility, and being able to take it at all hours, no matter the time zone.
And so I do, let's say I complete the training, how much it takes me, 1 week. I should, I wish. And then I want to start the certification. Like I want to start the lab and you to verify me that the lab is opening. And can you explain a little bit this process, because also I'm not familiar. So from the day that I say I want to start my exam, what do I have to do?
It is totally on demand. You don't have to schedule anything. As Ben mentioned, the exam lab is totally isolated and dedicated to each student. So it is totally on your discretion when you want to start it. And you will have 10 full days to conduct the exam. But I would like to give some insights about our exams in general. Our exams in general are not multiple choice question based. All our exams are highly practical against real-world web applications if we're talking about CBBH, or real-world infrastructure if we're talking about CPTS. Specifically on CPTS, students will conduct an actual external, meaning web, internal, and Active Directory penetration test against, again, real-world infrastructure that consists of multiple domain-joined machines and web applications. And at the end, they will also have to provide us with a commercial-grade report in order to pass. This is, in general, the whole idea behind our exams.
And now that just in time, when they ask in chat, we discussed about the training and the labs, how it is inside, and about the exam. But the next question is how we keep the content curated, what we have done, or what is our precautions, our future, in order to make sure that it remains amazing and to the current technology standards. Dimitris, do you want to start?
Yeah. We are pretty careful about this specific matter. We want to have our modules being up to date. If there is something that should be added, we will update the module with additional sections so that we cover the advancement in the specific domain. Again, being truthful to our training approach and our pricing strategy, not only our exams are extremely affordable and our training for the quality that they provide, but I would like to remind everyone that by the time you complete a module, you get lifetime access to it and lifetime access to the updates we will do. So by the time we update a module 2-3 times within a year, if you have completed it 100%, you will have lifetime access to it and lifetime access to the updates. But again, having up-to-date content is something that we regularly do, and that is something that it is within our interest to do.
Thank you. I love this aspect of this training because, first of all, I didn't even know that you have lifetime access. I'm very well prepared. Amazing. But also, I really like, and that I know from the inside, that if something happens and we need to patch anything, or we need to update something, or something is wrong, we have a very interactive and vocal community, as you all know. We are a little bit away from Discord or Twitter, where our team will reply, or you can chat with our team. Or, of course, we hang out on Twitter, and they're researchers at the end of the day. So we do a lot of research to maintain the certification to the best standards. And will the certification have an expiry period? Will there be a renewal? Scores, CPEs, what is the process behind it? Ben, do you want to explain, if you know?
I'll let Dimitris cover this one because it's more of the product side of things.
Sure. Our certifications do not expire. They require no renewal fee, but they provide CPEs. By the time you complete them, you will gain the maximum amount of CPEs, just like other vendors do with ISE Square. So no expiration date of our certs or no renewal fee will be required. If you ask us what will happen if I get CPTS and in 3, 5, 4 years, the domain has significantly changed, this is something that we will carefully consider. We won't expire the older certs. We may come up with, a new version of the certification, a new exam lab, so that we are in line with the threat landscape, with the domain in general. But again, even if we do, and I believe we will and we should, the older certifications won't expire by any means. So there is no such concern.
So we can see maybe in 5, 10 years, CPTS Volume 2, how it is with the university CTS, not the university, it is because we prepare it now, but with everything that we do, when the years pass, things progress. So it's very nice that you are not still on this. And I love this question. I will let you reply, but I have an amazing funny story behind it. So how will we show this to employees? Credly, physical paper, HTB website, how people can see that they are certificate holders? How can they showcase it?
There's a few ways there. So we do work with Credly. So we'll have a Credly badge that you can put on your LinkedIn or whatever to verify it. We have a certificate, verification on our website where somebody can go put in the number and validate that it is a certificate from us. And then you will receive an actual copy of the certificate. And I don't know if we've done it yet, but physical copies and some other type of swag will be coming out soon to everyone.
Exactly. And what I wanted to say here is that I cannot forget the day that an amazing colleague and friend of mine, Jack, is working on, to create the physical boxes. He must be around at the office. I don't know if he hears this right now. And he went to the factory to pick the boxes, to pick the paper, to test it, to see what is good, going back and forth. And the factory is at the other side of Athens. Okay, Athens is small, but the traffic is... You don't want to know. So he's going back and forth with certificates on his hand. And we're like, okay, but you are very, very, very certified now. It doesn't sound so funny now, but it is very funny to see our Italian marketing team lead trying to make everything work for the certification with in a Greek factory. It was almost like a joke, but we're working for something physical, and it will be like a surprise to your doorsteps. So how CPTS compared to other industry standard pentesting certifications? The flaming question. Who will start first?
Both will answer because I want also Ben's perspective. First of all, guys, I think that there is some understanding that, we training providers are in a constant fight with each other. What you need to understand is that we all follow different approaches, and the more serious pen testing, the more serious cybersecurity training providers you have out there, the more secure environments we can create in all. Okay, so there is no constant fight between training providers. So every certificate has its position and contributes to a safer environment all in all. So the flaming question has arisen. CPTS is on the same level as OSCP, as ECPPT, and GPEN. So we are covering the exact same curriculum. Of course, we don't have deep insights into what each certification is doing, not because we don't want to, but because we just didn't want to get influenced by other curricula. We had our own approach. We had multiple professionals working on it. We were very, very confident. We did our best to be up to date and applicable. So again, on the same level as OSCP, as ECPPT and GPEN, but I would like to stress our advantages, and I am constantly, frank and realistic. We have a way deeper and extensive web app exploitation part. The same applies for the pivoting part. The same applies for the documentation and reporting part. We also, when it comes to the methodology, guys, I can sum it up really quickly with 4 keywords. We have no CTF approach at all in the path or in the exam. So we are all about outside the box thinking, creativity, and discovering alternative avenues of exploitation without just throwing exploits around. Throwing exploits around and compromising an exam lab is not our thing. We are all about creativity and outside the box thinking, and this is something that we teach you how to do it through the whole journey. So this is my take on that. There are a lot. We have some advantages that I just mentioned. Then we'll cover more. Not to mention the pricing as well, that it is public on our website, and that you can compare it with it. So we're talking about the same level at an amazing price, if you ask me.
Nice. You said it. I don't know how to describe it. Very nice, Dimitris. Ben, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Dimitris said. That every serious certification out there has its own place in the community or whatever. I forget the word. But ours is different. Ours is a little bit different in those areas he mentioned, that we go very, very deep into web and AD. I think for at the level of certification, we probably go the deepest in Active Directory, and that Active Directory module, if you've done that, is a serious module. I mean, it took us months to build and test, and it takes a long time to get through that. Same thing with documentation and reporting. That was very, very important to me, having led teams of people and had mentors that taught me reporting and how to do documentation better. And I got better over the years, and then training other people in that area. It's a skill that I think is everybody can always constantly improve on. You can always take better notes. You can always organize yourself better. You can always make a better report, because in the end, the client doesn't care about what cool exploit you did, how whatever you owned this or that. All they really are paying for is the report. And if the report is messy, it immediately calls into question your skills and your abilities, and how much care and attention did you pay to their actual pen test. If there's no findings on there, okay, great. Maybe you didn't have any issues, or you only had a few issues, but did you find a way to document a narrative of what you did, what was working well for them, what they were doing good, so they still have some value in a report, and not just a blank document saying, yes, you're secure. So I think that the documentation is a huge thing that we do differently, and we emphasize it in the exam as well. If somebody can pass the exam, get 100%, knock it out of the park, but if they give us a garbage report, we can't pass them, because we have certain criteria, and we have that dual criteria of the lab and also the report, and a professional grade report that's neat and something that you would be proud of presenting to an actual client. And for people who, if you haven't done pen tests before, we have certain leeway there. You might not understand certain things of reporting. We try to give you all the tools to be successful, but it might also be at the grade of a report that you would hand to your manager, who would next do QA on it before giving it to a client. So there's a little bit of leeway in the reporting, but we do emphasize heavily on that.
Couldn't agree more with both of you, and I will not overanalyze of this question. I will just say that in everything we do, hacking is a little bit of like art also. So we put our perspective on it. Everyone is very free to do their own way of training. We have also our own, and depends on what do you feel comfortable also. You can choose any platform and any certification you want. So you can take whatever feels more comfortable to you, to your pocket or anything. And let's go to the next question. As the cert is new, how do you plan of getting credibility on in the industry for this to be accepted as other certs that has been in the market longer? I can also reply that from the community perspective. Should I start?
Sure, of course.
Thank you, gentlemen. So, first of all, we have reached out to a lot of people that are security professionals in order to try it, test it, and tell us the feedback before it is released to the community. And of course, we gather feedback from the community, and we want to have more people. Certified. Also, that you mentioned it also here, we have a 50% discount to Academy to all students. So if you're a student and still at school, we give you the opportunity to take the exam at the half price. So we want to really help to build the professionals of the future. And last but not least, we, in the community team, we do a lot of giveaways and all the CTFs that are done. The Hack the Boo that is currently happening at the end of October, and the university that will come, and all the other certifications, all of the other CTFs that are coming, and other competitions. We will really try to help every one of you explore CPTS, either you are able to purchase it or not, and at the events that we will be doing, that we are traveling the world. And on Discord, you can find more about it. So from our side, this is what we will do. We will try to help everyone explore the certification. But that is from community perspective. What about you guys?
I will start. So Hack the Box has traditionally been a trusted training partner. So that's how I like to position this, because it is not a training vendor. I have seen the exceptional and custom work that Hack the Box has done in the past. So it has been a trusted IT security training partner. We have an amazing clientele, a very diverse clientele, from Fortune 100 companies to military agencies, to government agencies, to secret agencies, and of course the whole private and public sector all around the world. I am really confident that you will not find anywhere over the wide internet that Hack the Box has released something that it wasn't up to our standards, something that wasn't up to the community standards. And as you can imagine, Academy will follow suit and will, and it is currently up to the standards of the company. So the content and the certification will be up to the great standards that have been set before us, and we are following suit. We are doing the same. We also want to be frank and true to you. We're talking about a new certification, right? But if we want to be accurate and truthful to you guys, it is all about the sheer volume of the certification holders, okay? So if we consider that Academy has 600,000 students and users right now, as you can imagine, even if we have, a very good percentage of this taking the certification, and from our backend, we can see that we have an amazing response to this certification, the word of mouth, if you like, will spread like fire. I'm totally sure of that, simply because of the sheer volume and the acceptance that you guys are giving us. So you guys are currently empowering us. Quality is one aspect, but acceptance is another. And for the time being, we are all ears to make this even better. But you can rest assured that we will become a credible, certification vendor. The last thing that I would like to add is that also NIST not exactly endorses us, but also lists us as an aligned training provider. So if we have the acceptance of such a big organization, you can rest assured that we will continue doing that, so that we are up to all standards and frameworks that are out there. And we will keep pushing towards becoming a credible certification vendor to support all of your endeavors.
Exactly. And to add on this, the certificate, of course, it's new, and it is just launched. It's okay, so the managers do not know it, but the certification is from Hack the Box. And at least for the years that I have been a pentester, even if you had any certification, because you may have cheated in any certification you may have done, they were asking one thing: what is your Hack the Box rank? because that shows that you are currently on the edge and that you are researching. So something that is backed up from Hack the Box, it means something. But that is, I think, my opinion and my professional experience. Ben, do you want to add something on it, or should I go to the next question?
I mean, I agree with everything you guys said. The community kind of helps dictate a lot of things for us. We've adapted over the years, improved in certain ways, changed focuses some certain times. Another big area is just quality. I mean, we put all of our content through a vigorous QA process, and even if we do miss things, because we're only human, and sometimes we put out a 90,000 word module, we might miss something. So we do, have avenues where we accept feedback from, our community, and we work, we have some people we work with more heavily, but any feedback that we get, we try to address it, as quickly as possible. And certain things can change. Sometimes, for example, a link, a Microsoft link, for some reason, Microsoft loves to redo all their links all the time. So we have broken links sometimes, and we try to address those things quickly. Or for something more serious, like a lab issue, we get in there and we try to fix all those. So there's the quality in our approach and constantly updating, and just all those elements together, I think, will naturally just grow the credibility of it.
Agreed. And I think we answered this question. I don't know if you wanted to add something on it, that there are many entry-level pen testing certificates, as is from entry-level and take it to specialist, just to clarify here. What is the difference in the CPTS path for the entry-level people? As I said, at least from Emma Sams, I don't know if she wants to type in the chat, because at first, some things that you cannot skip are easy. And we mean that from the fundamental modules. I think that is our input. I don't know if you want to add something on it, guys.
The content or the path follows an entire engagement life cycle. So that was our main goal with it, is that once you've gone through the 28 module or the first 27 modules, you've started a pen test from when you would be dealing with the client all the way until you delivered the report. And then the 28th module, which is the Attacking Enterprise Networks module, takes all of that knowledge and compresses it down into one lab, which I said earlier, how you can approach it, either black box or guided or semi-guided, if that's the level you're at. The other thing too is every single thing that we put in there is stuff that we've seen across all the different assessments that we've done. We left out certain things. I know somebody probably asked a question about, why is there no buffer overflow in there? But most of the time you're on, a 40-hour engagement. You're not going to have, there's going to be so much that you have to look at, you have to assess during that time box period, that you're not going to have the luxury of spending, maybe 12 hours writing some exploit or something. So we do have that kind of content. We have more of that type of content coming for people who are interested in that. But we found that as more of a different career path that people can take, and nice to have. Sometimes, or more advanced people, sometimes if you're getting into malware reversing or different reverse engineering, some of our later content that's coming that'll be more advanced, we'll cover those things. We felt that it makes more sense there than just stuck into the more entry level stuff.
Agreed. And the next question is, are you thinking to translate some of the courses to Spanish or other languages?
We haven't thought on that yet. I mean, I actually used to work in a translation company, like my first job out of college. I did help desk and all kinds of different stuff, but I was exposed to that industry, and there's something called localization, which is it's a massive undertaking. So for now, I think we're going to aim for English. Obviously, there's translation plugins, but there's a lot of good content out there for Spanish and other languages. I know Julio from our team has his own YouTube channel out there. Has a lot of supplemental content in Spanish. It's great, and I'm sure there's other language channels out there as well.
Agreed. We live in a world that we have all of us to speak English, and I think the good thing is that all material can be found in English for cybersecurity. So even keeping it like that, I know for some people that are not so proficient with English might be difficult. However, it is part of real life hacking and penetration testing, because at the end of the day, all applications, or most of them, even if they're done for your company, the vendors behind, everything will be in English. The things that you will have to research will be in English. So it's amazing thought, the translation, and thank you very much. But it's also a little bit of a challenge for the people to practice and proficient in this also. The next question I think we covered. Yes, we do have a student discount. It's 50% for everyone that signs up with their academic email. Make sure to join and you have the certification with 50% off. And I will go to the next question. What is the exam machines difficulty level? I believe it means the final exam, as compared to the Hack the Box machines. So compared to the Hack the Box machines and the exam that the community has to face at the end, how they compare in terms of difficulty?
It's a hard comparison because those are standalone machines and more of a puzzle. I mean, we try to keep those realistic, obviously, but they're more on their own. The lab is different, but you have to approach it from a different mindset because it's not you. When you're attacking a machine, you know that, okay, I'm going to assess this one single machine. I am going to find a way in, and once I find a way in, I'm going to get root. In our lab, it's more of like a pen test where you attack a machine and you don't know, am I going to get directly in on this machine, or do I have to find something on another one to later come to this one, pivot around, do pillaging, lateral movement. In general, I would say, maybe medium level machines, if I had to say, because there's no custom exploit development on them like you would have on an insane machine. There's just more practical real world stuff, but there are some many machines that have multiple steps. And there's also just obvious, as it's an AD environment, there's, a long attack chain that you have to go through. So I would say on the medium to parts of it, or maybe hard level, but mostly medium. And there may be a little bit of the current level of easy boxes. I wouldn't say the older easy boxes, but the standard has changed kind of there because of the competitiveness of the main platform and how good people have gotten over the years. Where a few years ago, something like curb roasting would probably have been a hard technique, and nowadays curb roasting is considered an easy foothold.
Perfect. And Ben, do you want to, not Ben, you spoke, Dimitris, do you want to add something on it?
No, I totally agree with Ben. But I would like to clear a confusion about the student discount that we have. Yeah. The student discount, the student subscription that we have is around $8 per month to access the entire content of either CBBH or CPTS. So for only $8 a month, you can access the entire content, and then you will only have to buy the exam voucher to enter the exam. So this is what we support, and I believe that 50% discount is if your university or for your institution buys those vouchers for you. This is only when we can do something more about the vouchers. But if we are talking about our community in general, we have the student subscription, $8 per month to access the entire content. And then you will only have to buy the exam voucher on isolation. Yeah.
Exactly.
So if you're able to complete the whole thing in, I guess, 3 months, it would cost you a little bit over $200 US dollars.
Yeah, correct.
I think there's a lot of value there especially for students who are trying to crack in.
Exactly. But don't worry, James. Of course, you cannot know. We froze for a little. I'm sorry. It must be something with the internet over here. And the exam machines are more real world or CTF type boxes, like the whole network that they will have to pivot and test their skills against them.
I just want to mention something on the back of what we were just talking about that I just saw in the chat from Ryan, who's one of our awesome customer support engineers. So the exam voucher does come with a free retake. So you fail it the first time, you have that second chance. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Yes, and we will mention it in one of the second questions, and how the second attempt comes, because it comes with
Examiner feedback.
So we don't just tell you you failed, come back here and try again. We try to give individual curated feedback for each and every student. There's a core team of within the academy team that's working on grading exams that we go through each and every one. There's 5 of us that do that. And if you submit your report, we're not just gonna look at the flags that you got and say, okay, this person passed or failed. We read the entire report, we discuss it, we write our own personalized feedback for every person, whether they passed or failed. Even if somebody passed and has all 100% of the flags, has an amazing report, we always, there's always ways you can improve. So in that area, we would look at it as if we were someone's manager and saying, you put a great report out, but here's some things that you could do better in the future. So we try to give everybody personalized feedback there. But yeah, in terms of exam machines, I mean, it's in the end, it's obviously it is a CTF because it's it's not a real client environment that's gonna there's a set path through it and you capture flags. But in the definition of what is CTFE versus real world, we string together a lot of real world attacks, web application attacks, application functionality misconfigurations. We don't have any weird puzzles in there. You're not pulling an image file out of a WAV file or something strange like that. So everything in there is something that you could see independently in a real network. But if you're, if you want to go into semantics about it, obviously it is a CTF because a client network probably won't be that difficult to compromise or might not have that long of an attack chain path. But again, everything in there is stuff that we've seen in the real world and that you will run into when you're out there doing pen tests.
Exactly. Then the next question is, give me a second. Is the exam similar to a prolab? And which prolab would you recommend for preparation for the exam? I think we answered that again.
Yeah. It has a similar feel. So when you spawn the lab, you're going to get an entry point IP and you have to attack. And then I don't want to give too much away, but once you get past that, then you're going to start having to figure out what to do next and move through it. So there is pivoting. Obviously, we teach pivoting in the course, so I can talk about that. In terms of preparation, Dante would be a good first one because it gives you more of the approach of doing an actual a larger environment where there's more machines where you have to you're not probably every machine's not going to be directly exploitable. I would say offshore as well would really, if you can beat offshore, then you would have you'd probably have no problem beating this. It's still a long exam, it's difficult, but I think those 2 labs, I don't think you need to go beyond offshore. I don't think Rasta labs. If you can beat Rasta labs, APT labs, all those ones, then you would be fine with the exam. But if you're looking for extra practice and confidence before it, I would say do Dante and maybe offshore as well. But even then, you can do everything just with the content that we put in the path because of that Attacking Enterprise Networks lab, and it depends on how you approach that.
And in general, I would suggest if you were going for some prolabs to start while you're a pen tester, Dante is an excellent stepping stone. And then offshore, oh my God, I love it. I did it before joining Hack the Box, so I can prove that I like it so much. And Rasta Labs, so those 2 can be an amazing stepping stone for your professional career. And in the exam, are only boxes or do we have also challenges?
There's no downloadables like Stego or things like that. So it's realistic. It's meant to be a mock corporate environment that you would encounter. So you're not going to have to pull things down and do standard CTF challenges.
I think they might have Stego, we have stopped putting it even in CTFs. But maybe some forensics challenges or something that they will have to something more on crypto or on, but we said that the reversing and pawn, we wouldn't have the time. So that's why we wouldn't have challenges, I guess.
It's more of what you would encounter in a real world pen test. So we have every element of that is things that you would see in an actual busy corporate network, and you wouldn't see those things there.
Perfect. And considering that the exam is in 10 days, if someone works, has a full-time job for the 5 days, yes, how much time is actually needed on the network? Because, okay, you have 10 days, but maybe you need 3 days, you need 5 days to complete the exam. What is your suggestion? Like at the end, how many days do you need from those 10 days to hack the lab and write the report?
I mean, we discussed this earlier, and it's very, very dependent on your skill level, your day-to-day job, your family life, all of that. That's why we gave the 10 days. I feel if someone is, very, very comfortable with the material, if you spend maybe 2 to 4 hours a day after work, or, spend some time in the morning, some time after work, and then a little, extra time probably on the weekend, it's very doable within that 10 days. And you would, be able to get through it relaxed, not feeling like you're, sitting there for 12 hours straight. But again, if you want to do it faster and, block off all that time, then I think somebody could, do it in probably 4 to 5 days.
Agreed. And I would say
definitely not an exam that, even all of our testers, I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's an exam that anybody would be able to pass in one day, like 8 hours or 12 hours or anything. It's just, and it's not because we throw, lots of rabbit holes in there and puzzles. It's just that it's a large environment. It's meant to simulate an actual pen test. So you have to crawl through, a pretty large network.
Amazing. And if we go, since we're talking about enterprise network, and that is all about real life pen testing, is there any type of company that will benefit the most of having people that to take these courses or specialization? Dimitris?
Truth be told, I believe that any pen testing or consulting firms would benefit from having CPTS holders, since again, I truly believe that they will be almost deployable resources, of course, with after proper training into the processes of each company or their specific methodology. But again, we are talking about really deployable pen testers who can, operate semi-autonomously because they would have valuable hands-on experience. That was the plan all along, and I believe that we achieved that. So any kind of these companies, or any company who would use a security analyst, if you like, security analysts, vulnerability analysts, penetration testers would all benefit from having, from taking the path and obtaining the certification. And as we always say, and this is not an exaggeration, even entry-level security analysts or SOC analysts would benefit from knowing exactly how attackers operate, even if they don't want to take CPTS. The job role path is quite revealing on how attackers operate, so I think it will be a valuable experience even for a SOC analyst. But again, okay, I understand that the actual cert is out of their interest, but the job role path would be beneficial, I believe.
Yeah, I think it could even benefit security engineers or blue teamers, sysadmins that have more of a security mindset. There's so much you could learn in there from the offensive side that you could go back and assess your own network and look at best practices at too. But it's more so, as Dimitris said, geared towards security professionals. But anyone in an IT field that is security minded, I think, could benefit.
Yep. And unpopular opinion, but it's mine. I think everyone who also is more in the governance side of cybersecurity, because even if you do only GDPR and business continuity and ISO compliance, their auditors, etc., it's very nice to see all the things that you audit and you ask from your team. If you are managing a team of pen testers, you have it internally, you have it outsourced, and maybe you just set the reports. It's very nice that all the things that you put in processes that have to be done and the people to take on matters or in action to actually know them and practice them. So it will be a great differentiator with you and other people in this area. So I would totally suggest to go for it because hacking is fun. So it would be very nice to go away from those spreadsheets and hack. And this is a tip from me. So anyone that is in the more consulting side of cybersecurity, and the other is developers. I have seen many developers to love Hack the Box. I don't think it's possible that the 2 million that we have on the platform are all of them hackers. Most of them, there are many developers. Some of them do not have even IT background or specialization or anything. But mostly for me, developers would be amazing to know all the things that they set up because they might set up in different environments, networks. There are many different things so that is, of course, my opinion. But yeah. And the next one is there a discount for a team to do CPTS training together? I think this goes for more of a corporate team. Like if a team of 10 from a company wants to do a certificate all together for CPTS, do we offer a discount?
First of all, to clarify things on the B2C world, taking the courseware together and the exam or the training together is not advised. It's actually kind of prohibited for obvious reasons because you need to self-develop in our domain. When it comes to corporate teams, we have our B2B offering called Academy for Business. You can contact us via the specific page that we have on Academy's landing page. And we will do our best to accommodate the training needs of your team. So I think that we are quite flexible and we can work around facilitating the training needs of your team.
Yes, and we have many of them actually getting it as of now, and interest, and they asked us also to come and host a meetup that they have done their training and to celebrate it. So yes, it's very fun and feel free to reach out to us. And last but not least, question, because we will have also questions from the chat. Can my company pay for me to get a CPTS? I think it's close.
They could, I believe. I can imagine a corporate card being used for an employee. Yeah. I think they should. They could.
Yeah, like even here or even in our previous work, when there is to do a training, you get it, of course, approved by your manager and why you need to do the certification, and then they cover it with some specific costs and, of course, timeframes for you to complete it. But there is sure always a way, but you have to discuss that with your team.
But they will, sorry to interrupt you, but they will lose actually the correct approach when you are within a company is going for Academy for Business. That said, there is a minimum amount of seats that we can facilitate, that we can accept as a request. That said, if you go on your own and the company funds your training, your manager will lose all the benefits of Academy for Business, which are the detailed reporting. He or she could also see your progress as you do modules in terms of MITRE attack skills or NIST skills. We have a very intuitive dashboard. If you go for Academy for Business, you will also have unlimited exam attempts and not just 2. So all in all, if you are more, let's say, than 2, 3, 4 pentesters, I would go for Academy for Business. It could even be, cheaper, even if it is hard to believe it, and you will have all the benefits of Academy for Business in terms of reporting and monitoring. So feel free to reach out to our B2B offering first. Otherwise, yeah, you can go for the B2C offering with after proper communication with your manager.
Amazing. Thank you very much for the insights. I didn't know actually that if they did in the bundle, they have also unlimited exam attempts. Although I don't know a manager that I would like for someone to have 5 exam attempts, but you never know. So we are done with the questions that we pre-gathered, and now we are going to jump into the questions that we had in the chat. Most of the questions, I think they are covered, but how is reporting site being taught? Here it is. As if it was a standard use, the methodology followed. How we teach the reporting? This is the question.
Yeah, so the reporting module is written by myself and actually my main mentor in my career that taught me like everything I know about reporting. He was a contractor. It combines, I guess together we'd have probably like 30 years experience in pen testing and reporting. So it's more of a guide of all the best, the things that we've done, the way we've organized ourselves over the years, the things that have worked best for us. I don't think there's any particular, hard standard out there for how reports are done, because every company does their reports a little bit differently. They might write their findings up different. They might have different appendices. Their attack chain might be different. They might have a different type of narrative structure. What we try to do is cover as many of the things that we've seen and done over the years that worked well for us, and give you the tools to then use that for, first of all, for the organization part, where you're getting set up with your file structure, your note-taking tool. We didn't want to go in there and say, yes, this is the best note-taking tool, you should use this. We presented a number of options, and then we give one note-taking tool in there to use. It's more so for you to practice and find what you're comfortable with, and have the tools and know how to start developing your own methodology in terms of reporting, in terms of documentation, and how you do it and structure everything. And then in terms of reporting, we cover the main elements that we believe should be in a professional pen test report. And again, some firms may vary on how they do things, but of all the companies I've worked in and all the pen test reports that I've seen over the years, everything that we cover in there is standard and should be in there. And we tried to go very in depth into the nitty gritty details, even step by step how to write a good executive summary. Because a lot of people, reports that I reviewed from junior staff over the years, their executive summary will be, it'll be a narrative of what they did, but highly technical. And you have to look at your audience, and if you have board members, the CEO is not technical or something of the company reading it, if you start throwing things in there like VPN and 8021.x or whatever, and they're not going to know what that is. So we talk about how to not dumb it down, but how to make it more relatable to somebody who doesn't actually understand what you did, and translate it into business and cost. And I'm not sure if that answers the question, but again, we try to give you the tools to then practice and develop your own methodology works for you. And whatever company you work at is going to have their own methodology, so you're not going to be able to learn the methodology that we teach, go in there and say, this is how we're going to do it. They're going to have their own reporting template, they might have a reporting tool. They might use something like FlexTrack. They might use Ghostwriter. They might have their own in-house tool. But it should give you the ability to be able to write up findings competently and in good detail on attack chains, and explain business risk in terms of what you found in the environment.
Nice. Thank you very much for your thorough explanation, Mr. Ben. And the other one, that is a very nice question again. Are automated tools prohibited? I think from this they mean if in the exam you need to maybe use Metasploit or something, how it is in other certifications, is there prohibited, or do you have only one attempt? How does it work in our exam?
You can use whatever toolkit you're familiar with and comfortable with. You can use Metasploit. You can run Nessus against it if you want to. You're not going to get anything, but you can use any tool you want. It doesn't, if you own Cobalt Strike, or if you have a license from your company and you want to practice Cobalt Strike in the exam, you can use that. If you want to use, I don't know, another like Covenant or something, or Mythic or one of the other ones out there, you can. If you want to use, just SSH tunneling and Chisel and things like that, you can do whatever you want. We don't have any limitations on what you can do. The only real limitation on the exam is just not attacking, Hectorbox infrastructure itself and anything outside of the scope that we give you, which is the public IP, which is the entry point. And then we do give the scope of the lab environment, but within that lab environment, you still have your own private environment, so you don't have to worry about potentially attacking anyone else. So the main thing would just be, not attacking academy.hectorbox.com or any other hectorbox.com domains and any other infrastructure you might find out there.
Nice. And I love this approach that you can use any tool, because at the end of the day, you will be able to use any tool.
Yeah.
And
I would add one more thing there. If you do use Metasploit, for example, or CrackMap exec, or something that has a database of stuff in there, we would just ask that if you're gonna dump data from it, don't just give us like a 300-page appendix of Metasploit output in the report. That'd be kind of painful to go through, and you wouldn't really do that in a real-world pen test. So we do give you a very detailed pen test report, a report template that is required to use for the exam. And the reason isn't because we say that this is the end-all, be-all, best template out there, but it's because for us, we're getting these many of these reports in. We have to have a standard template that we can use to grade things. And it is a good template. I mean, if you want to take it and adapt it to your own company, or if you're a freelancer or whatever, you can feel free to use it. But we have specific appendices in there, so you have to actually take your tool output and then go through those and fill those out properly, and not just giving us a massive dump.
Agreed. Part of the report, always, it's half of the job during a pen test, because everyone can hack everything, but not everyone can hack everything, but as much as you devote in hacking, when you're a penetration tester, you have also to devote time in explaining what you found and how all these things can be remediated. So it's very important to create nice reports. And of course, an MSF like that, output is not the best. And the question that we got a lot is if we're going to release any videos instead of having to read the material. I think that this is something that we cannot answer yet. It is something that we have thought. However, what is the current status on this? It's not something that we can reveal, accept or deny. Other questions that we had about the certification, I think they were answered, but I have one question for you guys. Let me remove also this banner. So now that we are at the end of the stream and we have asked everything, I have a question to do to you both. What is your number one tip you would give to anyone that wants to become a penetration tester? If you have to give one tip, what it would be?
That's a tough one.
Okay.
For me, I would say documentation. Treat every single module that you go through as its own individual pen test. So no matter what note-taking tool you use, develop some kind of system early on and figure out how you want to document those modules and document extensively. The same way you would do on a pen test. Start that habit early. I would say you don't want to get into bad habits early on and then join a company and then have to figure everything out and find that you're not documenting well or you're leaving things out. So I would say as much as you can, even if you're attacking a prolab or a weekly machine box or a retired box or anything that you attack, as much as you can. And we talk about this in the documentation reporting module. I would say approach them as much as you can as a pen test. Log your output. Use tmugs logging. Use timestamps. Have your own exploitation attempts things, and talk about artifacts that left behind. Just get as much practice in that as you can, because once you're doing pen tests, or if you're already doing pen tests, it's just going to get better for you. The other thing I would say is when you're working on the exam, you have 10 days for the exam. Don't spend 9 days in the lab and then leave the report for day 10 because it'll be terrible. When you first spawn the lab, I would say start your initial scans, download the report template, scroll through it and get familiar with the template and figure out everything that we're looking for, and then set up your note structure accordingly. And then as you're working through the exam, I would be filling out your notes, filling out the template as much as you can as you're going. There's a lot of boilerplate stuff in there that you could fill out from the beginning, like the scope and your name and different things. But as you find things, I would just work them in parallel, because then when you get to the end of the exam, you'll still have to do some work on the report, but it's not going to feel like this overbearing, crushing feeling that some of us pen testers may have had when we left the report to the end. So yeah.
Agreed. So for you, it's reporting. And also James agrees in the comments, reporting and taking notes. What about you, Dimitris?
I totally agree with Ben, but I will focus on the character aspect. If you want to be a successful pen tester, or in general enjoy, your work as a pen tester, you have to be, naturally curious. So you do something with Metasploit, try thinking how you could have done it manually, search the internals, search the documentation to find a nice exploitation avenue. In general, everything that you see, question it. Try to see the internals, try to see the mechanics, try to play with a given exploit and execute it using another way. In general, natural curiosity and creativity will keep you, on the edge, but also very interested in the domain. So I will focus on that aspect.
Perfect. And
there was one question that popped up in the channel just now about the report template. I wanted to clarify that you do have to use our report template for the exam. As I explained, it facilitates grading for us, and it's the structure of everything that we're looking for in the exam. So it is a requirement.
Thank you for clarifying again, Mr. Ben, and thank you very much, Dimitris, for the input. That curiosity is key. And I think we are done. It's been 2 hours almost. Thank you very much. We had a lot of questions to cover, and thank you for making the time, both of you, because you're very busy, but it was nice to do this kickoff about CPTS with everyone. How do you feel, guys?
It was nice. It was nice, guys. It is actually, as I said, it was the community that empowers us and gives us, and helps us move forward. So we enjoy being in touch with everyone.
And if anyone has more questions for us, you can always reach out to us on Discord. We have specific channels for CPTS, or you can ping any of us directly.
Exactly. We have on Discord a specific channel for anything you train on Hack the Box. So make sure we are active there, and our amazing Discord team and the community team, and of course the Academy training team. So make sure to address all questions also there, and also for new. For other certifications, because some people asked, more are coming, but we cannot disclose anything yet. Thank you guys so much.
Stay tuned for some awesome content coming.
True.
So thank you all, guys. Have an amazing rest of the day and a week. And don't forget that if you liked so much CPTS, try to participate in Hack the Boo, our CTF that we have end of the year, and end of the year, end of the month, and what we give as a surprise, but also a gift, CPTS to everyone. And so please make sure to join. Also, people that replied to the questions give CPTS. Let me name the lucky people are Elazion, 21, Hacker Buan, nice, and Pino. We will reach out to you for your CPTS exam. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day. Bye.